Well, hello. Thanks for joining us again, talking politics in Western Pennsylvania. Today, our guest is Thomas Russell, who's running for the Peters Township School Board. All right, Thomas, so nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, Bill.
I had the opportunity to meet you the other day. By the way, I love the crepes down at the little store down there in Venetia.
Yeah, they do have a good breakfast, surprisingly, for just a little
yeah,
shop
they
like
offer
that. Pepperoni rolls too are delicious.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, you're running for school board just on the Republican ticket, not on the Democratic ticket also, which you were certainly allowed to do.
Well, this year I did cross-file.
Oh, you did?
2 years ago when I had ran and I didn't make it on, I did not cross-file.
Okay.
But I figured out how this game was played this time around, so I decided to cross-file on both tickets this time around.
Okay, I had mistaken that then. Well, I'm going to just bluntly ask you, well, why are you running?
So it's something I always wanted to do. Growing up, my dad was on the school board for 14 years. He was a school board president, everything in my school district, California School District. My mom was a teacher, educator all her life. It's just what she wanted to be as a little girl. And just when it came up 2 years ago when the father, he left and there was a seat open, I was like, wow, this is my chance. It's almost like written that, they were looking for somebody to apply and be interviewed by the board. So I decided it was my time to go ahead and start since my daughter is now in school. She's in second grade, and then I have two more that'll be going through Peters Township. And I've just wanted to be able to give back to the community and work and help keep the school going in the right direction. And, I just have this sense to be able to serve my community, and that's why I'm doing this.
Well, I understand that feeling in total because of the fact that I felt the same way whenever I was on the school board. What issues do you see that are coming up or are present about what's happening?
Well, some of the issues, I think one thing we all need to concentrate on, which I don't think our country does very well at all, is mental health, especially with our students and our kids. I see how COVID has affected everybody, not just the kids, and I think a lot of times we don't think about what we're doing to other people with our precautions we've used, and we need to make sure we're checking in. And I think that's something that we don't do enough as a society. I remember in the last election cycle, one of the candidates actually said they think we could save money in the district if we cut back on mental health issues at the district, which I would totally disagree with. Won't say any names, but other things, I think we need to be more fiscally responsible. You're always going to run out of other people's money, and this total every year doing a max millage increase and increase in taxes, at some point you got to learn how to spend within your means of what you have. So we need to start trying to be held accountable for that here. And then just I think we need to continue to have an unbiased education here. We don't need to try to indoctrinate kids either way, no matter what side of the aisle you're on. We're just here to give them an education, prepare them so that they're ready to go out into the world and contribute to the society and be able to be ready to succeed in life.
Before I went on the school board, I was on the social studies committee. And that was an interesting, eye-opening experience because of the fact that I found that we taught the Civil War 4 times through our school system. We teach Mexico to our grade school kids. We don't teach the local community. We don't teach Western Pennsylvania. We don't teach Pennsylvania until they get into the high school. But I asked all the teachers back then, who won the Civil War with your class? Well, the North. Then I asked them, who won with? Well, the North. Yeah. I said, do you really have to teach it 4 times? I could see introducing it here, but then, let the seniors or the high school kids really delve into the purpose and the meaning of it. So it's interesting. One of the things I found, and I'll just be very blunt with this, because when we built this new school, we knew that the maximum millage would be requested every year. I said that, and I was chastised for saying that because of the fact that I guess that wasn't supposed to get out into the public.
Right.
Yeah, I was chastised a lot for telling them things that I knew, and they didn't want to hear it. So, that being what it is, the couple of the issues now that some of these people that were the boulder in the road, as it were, are leaving, maybe we'll be able to, in fact, get the Peters Township swim team to pay for their use of our swimming pool. We spent $5 million for 50 kids in our swimming team, but then the rest of the year the public can't use the pool because it's kept at a competitive level of 68 degrees for this Peters Township swim club or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And but we are paying for that through our school taxes.
Exactly like you said, with us paying for it, I think it should have an opportunity for the township residents to be able to use that facility. You know, you're not going to, no sport I know of, I played a lot of high school sports and a little bit in college, goes all year round. You train and stuff all year round, you might work out, but there's going to be times where there's down times, maybe in the summer when the kids are released, where the community can actually come in and use the facilities that they're paying money for every year with their tax dollars.
Well, I did a program on the taxes situation, and it cost a couple $100 for every football player that we put on the field. It cost over $6,000 for every swimmer. But because some of those people on the board had kids in that swim, they didn't want to spend more, because their swim coach at that time was making like $85,000 a year.
Right.
Our swim coach wasn't doing that, but so they didn't want to pay more, so they put the swim pool into the high school. There was options available. There were options available.
Just one way to look at it, which I thought was fantastic, was somebody else that ran for school board last time said was, nobody ever just comes out and asks, do we want this? Maybe people would be willing to contribute something to get like a new pool or something for the community instead of just raising taxes. You know, maybe you could voluntarily ask people to say, hey, can we generate income? Do you want to give like a one-time payment to try to help raise money, as opposed to trying to always raise taxes to pay for these things? You know, no common sense things seem to ever be used. It's kind of just forced upon us, and we all just have to pay for it later.
Well, the gentleman who owned Cool Springs over in the Baldwin Bethel area over there, he offered to build a $35 million facility with outdoor swimming pools, 2 indoor swimming pools, one for the high school in competitiveness and one for families, joined for less than $100 a month for the family. And both the council and the school board voted it down.
That sounds like a slam dunk to me, because it seems like everybody wants around here.
Well, now all of a sudden, the council voted against putting a pool into the new area across the street here because of the fact that it cost too much. Originally, it was looking at 8 or 9 million. Then it went up to like 18 million, from what I remember reading.
Yeah, I think back then, the closest bid they had was about $11 million, or roughly around there. It was over their budget, but now they can't get anything for less than 17, 18 million. So looks like a steal they could have got back then, at least, or if they had this gentleman that was willing to donate the whole pool to the.
Well, it was funny because one of the councilmen said, "What if he goes bankrupt?" The only funny part of it is he just sold one of his companies for $740 million. Yeah. And so I don't think that was good. And he was in very good financial position before that. Right. He owns a club up in the North Hills. It's a club. Basically, what he had, hairdressers and a bar and a restaurant and everything else available for the community. But because the leadership had blinders on, they didn't go for it, which is really sad, because now the community doesn't have the pool. Right. And the people have really no place to go. You know, whenever Rolling Hills was here, I used to love. We were social members, and we used to love coming because we always had the opportunity to come in and see our friends from the community and from outside of the community, and sit down with them, have fun. We had weddings here and everything else. Yeah. Well, that's gone now. So short-sightedness really does cause problems, and around here it caused problems a lot of times. So where do you want the district to head to now? What direction?
I just want them to head here, like I said, I think one of the main things a school's responsibility is to make sure kids are prepared for after school. When I was going through high school, everyone was just like, all the parents didn't understand, like, hey, you just go to college, you get a degree, you get a job, because it was like still changing at that time. No one really looks towards the future. That's not really the case. Everyone's getting out of high school, getting a degree, and nobody's standing there holding jobs out to people once you get a degree. Everyone has one now, so you need to figure out how to set yourself apart. And I think something like this TV studio here within the school is a great way for us to help develop kids if they have an interest in this, they already have experience, and then go forward once they go out of school. And also be prepared to what it means to have that much debt, and prepare. We don't have like home ec classes anymore. We don't teach kids how to do these things, what they're going to be responsible for once they're out of school. We're all stuck in academia for 18 years of our life, 22 if you go to college. And then once you get out in the world, it's like, holy, wow, I'm just free. I can do whatever I want. I have to manage my money, do all this. Like, nobody's planning my day for me. I have to do this. Like, it's hard to that switch. And I think we need to make sure we're preparing kids for that life after school.
It's funny that you say that, because a few years ago there was a young lady taking automobile mechanics and fabrication, and upon graduation she got a really nice job. It's, I believe, Sun Chevrolet, because of the fact that she was very, very capable and competent in that job. But you're right. You know, we always look towards the college. You know, you're going to college, and most of our kids here do. And let's face it, we only had, I think, 3 people go into the military last year. 2 years ago, we had a number of people. My grandson was in that class. I think there was 7 or 8 that were going in the military. That number is dwindling. I'm sorry to say, being a retired military person myself.
Right.
The opportunity for other things, you know, the plumber's out there making $80,000 a year.
Right.
And the person with a 4-year degree comes out with $80,000 in debt and making $35,000. You know, so we do have to start looking at, we can't send everybody to VOTEC.
No.
Okay, and that, even though that group has risen, or was rising whenever I was on the board, they didn't have the opportunity to, in fact, load everybody on those buses and send them.
Yeah.
So, like I said, so where do you want to go from here? What is your idea of what the future envisions for Peters Township? We have, and I have, and like I said, you may not know this, but I want to tell you, we have one of the largest advanced economics, or advanced programs, as far as, and I'm trying to remember what the name of the thing is there. Anyhow, the advanced courses that we offer more than any other school district. AP, that's
Okay.
it. More than any other school district around. You know, whenever I was on the board, a young man who I would have hired if I had a company in a heartbeat, Chase was the president of the class and everything else. He came and asked for 2 of the hardest courses that this school district ever offered. And the superintendent at that time told him, no.
Yeah.
I told him, I said, why don't you come back next time with some signatures from some kids?
Yeah.
He came back with a paper with like 300 names wanting these hardest courses. And she said no again. So I ran out, said, why don't you come back the next time with your parents?
Right.
So after that time, we had already talked, the principal of this building was a principal at Mount Lebanon. And some of the courses that they were talking about, we were able to get books from them and have them Skype into the Mount Lebanon program, because our teachers weren't capable at that moment to do the program. And we did that. And needless to say, immediately that superintendent started packing up her bags, and she went to a different school district, because she realizes she wasn't in charge, the people were.
Well, that brings up a good point. Somewhere for the district ahead. I touched on this a little bit the last time I ran, but through COVID, we now had to create a more robust online program for the district. And anytime somebody within Peters Township School District decides to go to like PA Cyber School or an online school, we forfeit that tax money from the state and federal money. So I think one way to lead the school into the future is we now have these. Everyone gets a Chromebook or laptop, iPad, whatever they get. And we have like online capabilities now if people want to go remote or not. So if we continue to invest in that and create a robust system, we might be able to then have kids that want to be in Peters Township but not in the school be able to be homeschooled through our school district. And that way we can keep that tax money within the district and not going to a cyber school outside the district. So I think that's one way we could kind of lead towards the future with that.
I was one of the only people in this district that had a certificate for teaching online. Okay, I went through the Duquesne's program, got the certificate. But I was one of the only few people that they had. I think there was one, possibly 2 at that time. Right. And COVID hit, okay? And all these teachers are scrambling trying to figure out how to teach online, which was unfair to them. And I personally believe the school should be offering those programs to those teachers. Right. Through a college, bring those people here, and have them go through it. So the next time this happens, and there's going to be a next time, there's already something starting in China at this time, but there's going to be a next time, and we should be prepared for it and not all of a sudden go, whoa, what happened now? Yeah. So exactly. I agree with you. We should be looking forward to that problem happening again. It's going to be ever, and like you said, and my technical expertise was in chemical, nuclear, and biological warfare. So I was probably the only one around, at least in this district, that in fact had experience with this kind of stuff. And not one person ever called me and said, what do you think we should do? You know,
Yeah.
and that was sad too, because, you know, once again, they don't call upon the people that could possibly. You know, we had, you know, we the school district, it's not fun. One, if you're on council, you get paid a little bit. School district, you don't get paid.
No.
And what happened during that period of time, some of those people who were being coerced by the state to support the masking, because they were going to fine the district and those individuals, which you can do, their kids were being harassed at school. And some of the people that the party, the Republican Party, is supporting were some of those people is alleged to have done that. You know, so, you know, like I said, it's not a thankful job by any stretch. You get criticized no matter what you do.
And that is a concern. I know one of our friends we're speaking with, and he had a friend that was in another school district, and he was like, I'm done with the school board, I'm leaving, people are harassing my kids. And, you know, that's also part of our job as parents, to be able to prepare our kids to deal with those things and not shy away when things get hard. And if everybody just turned a blind eye when stuff got hard and didn't want to contribute and try to help fix things or try to help fix things, then no good people are going to be coming around to try to do anything. So it'd be our responsibility if someone is coming and trying to harass my children or my wife or anybody, that we're able to speak to that and we're able to stand on our own 2 feet and represent ourselves and say, you know, we're trying to do what's best for the community. And, you know, everyone has their opinions and it's their right to their opinion. That's what our country's all about. But you guys still have to be respectful, and it's our job as parents to be able to teach our kids how to handle those things too.
I can't argue with any of those things, you know, which is really odd for me because I could usually argue with everybody. But the bottom line really does come down to the bottom line. What is it going to cost us for these programs? And you brought up the other idea that you had heard that the school district is bringing in a group to check the taxes for the community.
The property assessment values, which is a concern. I mean, nobody came to Peters Township. I've only been here for a little over 3 years. Right before COVID hit, I moved in. Knew I was going to pay higher taxes than where I came from, but I never, nobody signed up to continue having max millage increases year after year after year. And at some point, we have to get that straightened out. But the thing with the tax value, people trying to reassess the value of the homes again, is kind of a scary thought. And, you know, as we were talking a little bit earlier, I believe Allegheny County and also Pittsburgh Public Schools are in a class action lawsuit against homeowners now because they decided to artificially raise the prices of the homes there so that they could get more tax revenue. So I think that's kind of something we don't want to go down that path and end up in a situation like that. So if I don't get on, hopefully whoever they're talking to doesn't get the school district in a situation like that where we're open to litigation.
Peters Township is a unique school district because it has a very large percentage of their total operating expenses and everything comes from the local community. You know, if you go to see what the state offers the township, it is one of the lowest amounts per student in Western Pennsylvania. Because why? The state said because your taxpayers can pay it.
Yep.
So, you know, instead of taking the responsibility, as the law requires for the state to pay the majority, they don't do that here. So it has fallen on the backs of the taxpayers. Right. But like I said, as I said earlier, when we built this new school, we knew that millage was going to be increased for years to come. It was
a necessary evil. I mean, the community's been blowing up. We're still building, we were talking earlier, we're building even more housing developments around, you know, so we're going to continue to be building. We need bigger facilities and more to handle that. So I understand we had to do it. You know, there were some things that could have been done differently. I can't speak to all those things. I wasn't involved whenever all those decisions were made. But you know, if just from this point forward, we got to try to be more fiscally responsible and try to make it up somewhere.
You know, it was funny. I was talking to the assistant principal here one day, and he was down at a meeting down in Greene County or something, and Peters Township had just won another state championship. And this was a couple years ago, and he didn't say anything in the meeting. And one of the school district principals down there walked up to him and said, "How come you didn't say anything?" He says, "We're so used to it."
Yeah.
And he said, "We've never," and the other person said, "We've never won it." So, you know, like he said, just the idea that you're so used to winning these. I mean, if you go into the the basketball court here and take a look around, you'll see the championships that Peters Township has done, and they're not even talking about the old time championships, you know.
Right.
And so that's, you know, like I said, Peters has a tradition of everything. I was watching the NFL draft last night, and I realized that all of those players came from schools not from the East Coast. You know, there's a tradition here to having good. Well,
Western PA has some of the best football.
Well, they did have
around
a Pitt.
for
They
long
did have a
time.
Pitt person in the first round. I have to admit that, and being an alma mater from Pitt, I'm really glad to see that. But the bottom line is, you know, there are traditions, and Peters Township had always had a excellent tradition as far as academics is concerned. I know whenever I graduated, I had Mr. Johnson was my economics teacher, and through 4 master's degrees, a bachelor and associates and everything else, I've never had to buy a book because of it. He taught that well in micro and macroeconomics that I never had to look around, and professors were always mad because they always wrote the books.
Yeah.
But, you know, so like I said, it was always one of those things. The couple programs that I'm not sure even if they're still offered anymore, cybersecurity and things like that were offered, but the kids weren't taking advantage of it. And I found out later, that my son, who was chief of cybersecurity at CMU and taught a lot of these FBI people, the FBI came, did a program one time, and said, "Here's what we'll do: we will let you have 2 or 3 courses at your high school level, taught by the University of Pittsburgh, and then whenever they graduate, they'll have those 9 credits. They go to school and go for cybersecurity. We will hire them for 2 or 3 years or whatever it is, and then they can go do whatever. But during that period of time, we will pay for their school. We will give them $1,000 a month as a stipend." Now, if you were in school and somebody gave you $1,000 a month, I would have taken that up without any school debt or anything else. Come out with a good degree program, working for the federal government. When you walk into any other business in the country, you got a job. You know, you got a job. And but I don't even. I'll ask you guys: is that program still being offered? The cybersecurity? No. Yes.
I think there are a couple of like one-off kids who like to diverge into those kind of things.
Okay,
but I don't think
it's not a full
supported
classroom anymore.
No, with the new school, no.
Yeah.
I think this is like one thing I said a couple times about preparing the kids for life after high school or college. You know, I think it's a justice. The whole system does this. You know, I remember my college went to Gannon University, and they claimed they had a 97% placement in students after they graduate. Well, when I tried to go through the counseling to see about trying to get job placement, they don't do anything. They did not help me get any kind of job. They didn't help me get interviews. They didn't help me in the interview process or anything. I think they just claim that to us. And when I went through in high school, I met with my guidance counselor trying to figure out like majors and what I should do. And she stopped. She goes, "Okay." She said, "Take my hand." She said, "Close your eyes. Okay, I envision you being at a podium in a suit, talking, maybe something in PR." And I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "I think that's what you should probably go after." Well, look, here I am today
like
in front of a podium. Yeah, but it was like the craziest thing. I'm asking for like real world, like help me, like what should I, like I'm trying to figure this stuff out.
Let me put my hands on your head.
Yeah, so I think that's something, you know, like a program like that, or being able to show kids like, hey, these jobs, this is what you're going to get. This is the return on your investment, and what you and your family are going to be paying for this education, and what you're going to be able to do with it, and actually, you know, something like that, so they know what they're getting into.
Yeah, it's amazing. The opportunities that weren't taken advantage of. I mean, like I said, we had that program offered. We had a teacher here that was involved in it. My son was actually talking to him about the different program and things, and that just sort of fizzled out. And I don't know if it was because the school didn't push it, or I don't know if the teachers didn't push it, or the students, just the numbers dwindled. And I know it went for like 2 or 3 years for sure. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I haven't heard anything else about it ever since. And you would have thought something like that offered a guaranteed income, you know, money, your school paid for, and everything else.
That's a big future. I mean, cybersecurity, that's the whole world's running on the online. I mean, that's a huge opportunity for anybody to get involved in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's just, well, like I said, that's just one program. You know, there's other programs that are going on here that, like I said, the AP courses that we offer are more than any other school. The idea that when we worked in cooperation with the Mount Lebanon School District and we Skyped in to their classroom, I know Peters Township had a day off, and the kids actually left here on a bus and went to Mount Lebanon and sat with their friends that they didn't even know. So they met. So that helped between the schools too. You know, just getting to know people outside of your classroom, getting to know them, and also, you know, you're sharing now a experience that, you know, and it's funny because the linear algebra program that Chase brought into us. A couple of years I was down at the polling places talking to the students who in fact were helping out different candidates, passing out stuff at the polling places. And I'd ask them, a lot of them were from W&J, and I'd ask them, I said, you know, how did your Peters Township academic career help you? And they said, they said the first day we went into a linear algebra program, there was like 70 kids. The second day, after we got the syllabus and everything, the second day there was like 12. And those 12 came from Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, and Peters Township. Everybody else said, no, I'm not going to do this. So,
Yeah, having that opportunity, I was in AP math classes, and I took Calc 1 again in college, and I was very prepared from having that. And it was funny, I got in the oil field, and I was out on a drilling rig, and we were, you know, I was a directional driller, and I was in charge of steering the well bore. And, you know, I could see that trigonometry teacher right there saying, you're going to use this someday. And I'm never going to use this. And then here they're talking to me about right angles and socket-toe. And I'm like, oh, my gosh, I see her telling me I'm going to use this someday. And luckily she did teach it good enough, and I was able to go back on that to be able to do my calculations I needed to do the work. But never believed I'd ever have to use that stuff. So it's crazy how it goes full circle like that.
yeah, my one granddaughter said, well, why am I learning all this stuff? And I said, well, here, and her mother was a real estate person. I said, here, you just sold this house for 7%. Tell me how much money you're going to make from it.
Yeah.
She looked at me and goes, why? I said, because that's your commission. That's what you get.
Yeah.
So she's, I never realized that. You know, so,
Yeah.
well, anyhow, we have so much more we could talk about, but our time is coming to an end. You know, it's always bad. I will say that you met with the Republican Party, okay, and I want to bring this point out because of the fact that they're not supporting you. You're not one of the 5 candidates. But they had to look back to your wife's Facebook page.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
in one of the meetings, I did meet with the Republicans a couple times, spoke at one of their events. They did bring up, they had some questions about my wife's Facebook post from 2 years ago. So I consider myself a libertarian, very conservative. My wife is on the other side. She's very democratic, progressive with everything. But I think that kind of centers us and helps us be able to have open debates on these things. And, you know, I chose to withdraw my name. They didn't tell me no or anything like that. But I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet. So you have now 5 Republicans running on one side, the 3 Democrats joined forces, and I run on the other side. So I'm the only one that's here to represent the people of Peters Township. I'm not here to represent a political party or a group of people that run a committee. I'm here to try to represent all of us together.
Oh, right.
And I think that's going to be one of my strengths is I don't have anybody besides you voters and taxpayers to be responsible to. I'm not going to have to respond to somebody that campaigned for me and think they owe me that I owe them something when a decision comes up.
Okay, well,
the
Tom,
schools.
we're at the end. Okay, thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming,
Bill.
and we'll look forward to seeing what happens here in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
All
Can't
right.
wait.
Once again, thank you very much for coming. We'll see you later on.